While user management as an important subject in CRM administration consists of several key concepts including roles, profiles, and data sharing methods, in this particular video, we are going to look at the details of how you can add, manage, or delete users. So these are the details that you see in your user settings. So starting from onboarding a user to modifying or managing their details and to deleting or deactivating them, what are the different options that are available and how do you go about it? So this is what we're going to look at in this video, and this is more like a product walkthrough of the user settings. And with no further delay, let's get into the product and understand further. Alright, so now I'm now signed into a CRM account. This is the CRM account of Amelia Burrows, who's the super admin of an organization called Zilker Moments, which is a fictitious company for the sake of this example. Alright, so in this account, if you have to modify user details, you need to go to Setup. Under Users and Control, click Users. Okay, so this is the page you go to in order to add a user, modify their details, or delete or deactivate them. Alright, so first let's start by understanding this interface, understanding the different sections of the users page, and then we'll go over all the options you have in user settings. Alright, so first, what you see on the left is the list of your active users. Now if you click this drop down list, you see different types of users. Alright, so we'll go over each type one by one. And before that, when you click on a user from this list, their corresponding details are displayed on the right. So you can switch from one user to another if you want to look at their specific details. Alright, so now we'll go to this different types of users. So first we have active users. Now as the name suggests, active users are people who are taking an active part of your CRM account. That means people to whom you have sent a user invitation and they have accepted it and now are successfully part of your CRM account. Alright, so those users are listed under active users. For instance, if you go to the leads module or any module, let's say I want to change the owner of these two records. So what you see here is your list of active users, and only those active users can take part in any of your CRM functions. And if you deactivate a particular user, those deactivated users will be listed under inactive users. For instance, here is a user that's been deactivated. Let's go and look at an example. Let's say I deactivate this user. So this user is an active user and is also online. Let's say for some reason I go and deactivate this user. Alright. So upon deactivation, you should note that that particular user will no longer have access to their CRM account. So it's like a temporary suspension. They will not have access to their account itself. They'll be locked out. And deactivation does not mean that your license, that particular user's license, is also deactivated. Alright, the license is still very much active. It's just that the user is now not allowed to access their account. Alright, so when is it ideal for you to deactivate a user? Perhaps when the user is not going to be available for a specific time period. Maybe somebody is on maternity leave or they are on vacation, right? So you don't want them to access your CRM account. So in such cases, it's ideal to deactivate a user, and upon deactivation, the records still remain intact. Let's say I deactivate this user now. Say I understand and deactivate. So this was the user account of the person that we deactivated. Now let's now reload. You see your account has been disabled. So the user that you deactivated in your CRM account will now no longer be able to access their account. Now let's go and check the account and look at the consequences of deactivation. Let's go to the leads module. So the user has a few records. Let's refresh and check. So now the user continues to own these two records. Alright. So that means the records, the data in CRM associated to the deactivated users, they are all intact. The data is intact, but if you now go and try and change owner, the user will be missing in this list because this user is no longer active. So up until the point of deactivation, whatever data was associated with that user will all remain intact. There is no loss of data, but after the point of deactivation, from then on, they will no longer be a part of the CRM account and will not be active. So that is the consequences of deactivation. Alright, now let's try and activate this user again. I will go to inactive users list. So to look at the list of users that you have deactivated at different points in time, you can go and check the inactive users list. So here I will select the user, click activate. Activate now. That's it. So it's just like a temporary shutdown. So once you have decided to take the user again into the system, you can reactivate them. Now they can start from where they've left off. So now let's go and check the user's account. Reload. There you go again. So that is about inactive users. So we looked at active users and then inactive users. And next is the list of unconfirmed users. So who are these unconfirmed users? Now let's say you have sent an invitation to 10 people and 6 of them have accepted your invitation and have become an active part of your account. The other 4 have not accepted your invitation yet. They have not activated their account. So basically your invite has not been seen or acknowledged. In that case, people who are yet to activate their account will be listed under unconfirmed users. So it's a good practice to often go and check your list of unconfirmed users and then send them an invitation again. Maybe ask them to check their spam folder, junk emails, or send invite again so that they check the email, click their activation link and get into your CRM account. For example, let's try and invite a new user and see what happens. All right, now let's say we invite a user called Priya Anand, for instance. This is their email ID. I already have a list of correct roles and profiles. So I will select that from the list and save. So this user has now been invited to the CRM account, but they are yet to accept the invitation. All right. So now if you go to the list of unconfirmed users, you can see Priya Anand is listed here. You can either re-invite, send the invitation link again, or ask them to check their spam folder, double check the junk emails and so on. So usually it will not really go to junk emails, but there is a possibility. So it's better to monitor that. And you can go through the list of unconfirmed users to make sure that everybody you have in mind has accepted your invite. So you can go through the list of unconfirmed users and send re-invite links as required to just make sure that everybody you have in mind has joined your CRM account. All right, so that's about unconfirmed users. Next, let's look at the list of deleted users. So once you delete a user from the system, they are no longer part of your account. And one important point for you to note, again, is deleting a user does not equal canceling their subscription, right? So their license is still active. So let's say if you have fired an employee or somebody quits your organization. In that case, say user A quits, so you delete user A. That doesn't mean the license that held user A is also deleted, right? It doesn't mean that the license automatically stands cancelled if you delete a user. The license is still very much active to be filled by somebody else. So you're continuing to pay for it. So if you're replacing user A with user B, you can delete user A and transfer all their records to somebody else and then onboard user B and let them take over from there. So the license is still active. But if you think that once somebody has quit and you've deleted that particular user, you don't have a replacement. In that case, your license is still active and not being used. So separately, you have to cancel the license. Deleting a user will not do that for you. And let's see the consequences of deleting a user. For instance, according to our example, we invited a user called Priya Anand, right? She was in the list of unconfirmed users for a while. Now let's say she has accepted the invitation and is now an active part of the CRM account. She even has a couple of leads associated to her. So there is data in Priya Anand's ownership. Now, for the sake of this demonstration, let's say we go and delete this user again. And let's try and understand the consequences of deleting a user. So to delete a user, you select that particular user on the right, scroll down and click delete this user link. Now, when you delete a user, you're faced with two options, either delete without transfer or transfer now. And by default, the transfer now option is selected. Now, before we get into the details of these options, let's consider something. When you have decided that a user is no longer required in your CRM account, say when somebody quits or when you fire someone, what is your action plan for their absence? Say you have 10 users in your account currently and you have decided to delete the 10th user. So what is your action plan? Are you going to bring in another user to replace this 10th user and transfer their roles and responsibilities to the 11th user? Or are you going to distribute the current records among the existing 9 users? What's your action plan? So depending on that plan, you can select one of these options. So let's first begin with the best case scenario, as in you have a replacement and you want to transfer this user's roles and responsibilities to the new replacement. In that case, you select transfer now and select which user. So we recommend that you invite the new user first, that is the replacement first. That way it is going to be easy for you to transfer all the records of this user to the new user, right? So otherwise only existing users will be displayed here. The 11th user is not going to be displayed here. So we suggest that you first invite the replacement and then delete your 10th user. Right now, let's say in this example, we are going to transfer all the records to Sharanya Ramachandran. That is the replacement of Priya Anand. Okay, so then automatically all the records, all the assignment rules, criteria, everything where Priya Anand is mentioned will be transferred to Sharanya Ramachandran. That is the new replacement. So then you go ahead and delete. Or your second case where you are really not sure of what to do, you don't have an action plan, or you plan to distribute the records among the current 9 users first, and then you'll make up your mind. If that is the case, you can so because when you select a particular user, all the existing records will be transferred to this user. If you don't want to do that and you want to distribute the items among the existing users, then you can delete without transfer and then delete. So now what will happen? You will have the records intact. So either case, you will have the records intact. In transfer now case, you will just have the records transferred to somebody else. In the delete without transfer case, you will have the records intact against the name of the deleted user. Then you can, post deleting this user, you can go and reassign those records to different users as per your plan. Okay, so that is how you decide whether delete without transfer or transfer now is ideal for you. And we always recommend that you transfer the records before you delete users. And in either case, that is whether or not you choose to transfer records, these are the couple of points for you to note. If the deleted user has integrated any additional applications with the CRM account, those integrations will also be disabled. And this is what we know. Deleting the user will not reduce the number of user licenses. If you want to stop paying for the license, you should cancel the subscription separately. Alright. Now, for the sake of this example, let's delete without transfer and see what happens. Now, the user Priya Anand has successfully been deleted. And let's check what's happened with the data in her ownership. Alright, so we are in the leads module. Scroll down and you see that the records that belong to Priya Anand still remain intact. Say if you click one of the records and go to the lead owner, it does say Priya Anand, but here it's been labeled that this is a deleted user. Alright. So this user has been deleted. And when you click on the lead owner, the system prompts you to reassign this record to an existing user, an existing active user, right? So that is what happens when you delete a user without transferring their record to somebody else. You will have to go and reassign them to another person of your choice. It could be the same person, like, one single person for all the records, in which case the better thing to do would be to transfer the records even before deleting the user. Or if you have to assign the records to a bunch of users, distribute them among a bunch of existing users, then you can do this way. If you don't want to deal with this, manual assignment of records to different people, then we recommend that you transfer all the records to an existing user, or you onboard the new replacement first, as I mentioned, and then transfer the records already to the new replacement, and then you delete your user who has quit the organization, right? So that is about deleting users. And the final type of users are the developers, which is self-explanatory. If you have any developers in the system, they will be listed here. Alright, so we are done with the different types of users, all these labels, what they mean and how user deletion and deactivation works. What are the consequences of deleting and deactivating a user? These are all what we saw now. Now, before we conclude this particular video, here is another useful setting for you to note. We talked about this list of users, right? So when you click on a certain user, their corresponding user information is displayed on the right. Now, if you look at these fields that are part of this user form. These fields are predefined. These are already determined by Zoho CRM and provided out of the box. So language, time format, these are fields that are predefined in the system. Now, what if along with these details, you also want to provide some custom information? For example, employee ID for users in an organization. Now, when you onboard a user to Zoho CRM, along with mentioning their role and profile, you want to also specify an employee ID number. So if you want to basically add custom fields to the user's form, you can do so by editing the user detail. Scroll down and click on this little link called Manage Fields. And here, this leads you to the module editor where you can customize your user form. So here I can drag and drop. So if it's just a number for employee ID, I can drag and drop a number field and call this employee ID. And these are the different kinds of fields you can drag and drop in order to customize your user's form. Alright, so now let's save and close. Alright, click here to see the changes. Now you have an employee ID. I can specify an employee ID and save. So this is how you customize your user's form. In addition to the fields already offered by CRM, if you have some custom information about your users to provide, then you can click on the edit link, click manage fields and customize your form and make the changes required. Alright, save. And the final topic for this video is user groups. Now, what are groups? A group is nothing but a combination of your users put together based on some common parameter that runs among them. For instance, women in the organization or men in the organization or new joinees. So why are groups useful? Because if you want to convey a certain update or discuss a topic with a certain set of people, instead of conveying it separately to each and every one of them manually, you can put them together in a group and then maybe send an email or start a discussion in your feeds. So it's convenient that way. For instance, let's try and create a new group called new joinees, right? So users in a group need not necessarily all be in the same rank, in the same order of seniority or designation and so on. So let's say you have a new manager joining tomorrow and a new subordinate. Now they are of different ranks, right? But both of them are new, so they could be part of the new joinees group. So let's say we create a group called new joinees and they are from users. Both of them are new. Save. That's it. You have a new group created. And where are these groups useful? Let's say, for instance, in feeds where you discuss updates, keep people informed of the progress of your records. So here you want to say, welcome to the organization. Who do you post this to? New joinees, right? These two people will get this update. All right. So this is how groups work. And wherever you have users, roles, wherever you see those options, groups will also be listed and you can select whichever group you want. For instance, let's say upcoming Women's Day celebration, points to note. You can put it to women in the organization, right? Post. So that's about it. It holds good for feeds, email notification, and wherever users and roles are mentioned, you will also find groups. So that is about user groups. This is plainly for your convenience. Put a set of users. When you have a large number of users in your organization, you may want to create groups out of them and keep them informed in terms of emails or your feed updates and so on. So that's about user groups. To summarize, we looked at the types of users, we looked at how to delete and deactivate users, we looked at the consequences of deleting and deactivating users, we looked at how you can customize the user details form, and we looked at how to create user groups and how they are useful.